Recently, my wife had a question asked to her on social media regarding Hurricane Harvey and the destruction. The question was, if God caused Hurricane Harvey to happen and all the destruction in Texas as a result of it, then why should we, as Christians, pray for those who are affected? Isn't it a contradiction? Or even if you're not a Christian, is the idea of praying for help for these victims contrary to what God's actions are? And should we do that? I think the answer lies in two separate aspects of the way we look at this. The first is God's participation. Does God actively participate in destructive world events, especially weather-related? And I think we have to ask ourselves, what does God do and how does he participate? According to the Bible, he has brought destruction on certain areas and cities, and he can do that certainly. And then also Jesus calmed the storm, so of course if God can cause weather, he can cease it as well. But does God actively cause every single aspect of the weather? Or is his creation, the earth, just running on its own, and then he might have some participation for specific purposes? And there are specific purposes, like I said, in the Bible where he does actively participate, either to bring destruction or in some cases it could be to bring help. I've read stories or seen testimonies of people who have prayed for specific things in the weather to happen, and they have, whether it be the clearing of a storm for some kind of event or bringing of rain to help drought or to quench a fire. So I believe those stories. I believe God certainly can do that. I believe he certainly does participate actively upon request. Did God cause the hurricanes to occur? That's a possibility. I don't think we can rule that out and say no for certain, but I don't think we can say yes for certain either. I think God certainly can let the world function on its own and let weather occur as it would based on the operating of the earth and the circumstances of the planet, some of which we are affecting, I believe, through our own participation in clearing of land and mining and pollution and nuclear testing and so forth. I think we're having a negative effect on the planet. To what extent, I think, is debatable, and to how rapidly is it causing degradation of the planet, I think that's possibly debatable, but I think we're having a effect. I would say the effect is not zero. That is human participation and negative effect on the planet's weather patterns. But leaving that aside, going back to God's level of participation, you have to ask, does he cause every single tornado? Does he cause every single breeze to blow? Does he cause every single leaf to fall? Or do these things just happen? My personal belief is, I think the world is running on its own accord, except for when God chooses to participate, or when God answers a specific request as a result of prayer, or to cause a specific purpose, whether it be good or bad. So I don't personally believe these hurricanes are caused specifically by God, although I don't think that's impossible either. But that's the theological divine level of participation portion of the answer. So we don't really know. The point of, I guess, to summarize that answer, it would be, we don't know. It could be God causing it. It could just be the world operating on its own. But we can't control that. So now let's talk about our level of participation as people. If God does respond to requests, if God does answer prayers, which I believe as a Christian that is the case, and if you are a Christian, hopefully you would too, then our level of participation and responsibility should be, number one, to pray for help, to pray for God's presence, to pray for God to work miracles, to open hearts to him, to fix things, to help people, to answer prayers that are happening there as a result of the destruction. So the first thing is to pray. The second thing is to give. If we have resources, I believe it's our responsibility to help people and to give of those resources to what extent is possible in order to help the situation. And the third thing is to act. We should, if we can, take some action, whatever extent that is, that's possible to help those in need. So, and that's regardless of what God's action is. There's examples of the Bible of God specifically taking action and people still praying for him not to take that action, or for him to change the action, or to help the people who are suffering under God's wrath or destruction. So regardless of what God's doing, which we don't know, our function, our responsibility is to pray, to give, and to act.